time you try to emulate something, you can never emulate it perfectly. Okay, I'm just going to talk a little bit about wireless keyboards and mice on Linux. And I had this Logitech Electronics Telemax keyboard and mouse that I used, and the point is I got it working all right on Linux. Now, all of that stuff needs batteries. Like, for example, the keyboard uses 2 AAA batteries, and the mouse uses 2 AA batteries. And it actually erroneously says on the bottom of the mouse, it says it needs AAA, but it actually uses AA. So that was a mistake. So basically what I did was I used rechargeable nickel-cadmium batteries, and I just keep recharging those batteries so I don't have to buy new batteries all the time. One technical issue with this, the mouse button was repeating on me, which was really annoying. So what I did was I adjusted the keyboard delay to 700 milliseconds and the repeat time to 20.6 milliseconds. And it's an interesting. I'll just describe the keyboard a little bit. I actually, after I made those adjustments, I didn't have the problem with the mouse button repeating anymore. That was a problem, and sometimes when you just briefly hold the left mouse button, it would send out multiple events. So you would get more than one. It would be like you press the mouse button several times, and it would just screw up things, and it wouldn't be very usable. After I made the adjustments with the keyboard delay and the repeat, it worked fine. So I'll just describe the keyboard briefly. It's got a lot of interesting buttons on it. It's got this really big button on the left side where you can use it as a just sort of like a wheel on. It's the same as a wheel on a mouse. You can scroll up and down without your hands leaving the keyboard, which is nice to have. There's another button that it looks like a square. It has a little icon beside it that looks like a square with an X on it, and it acts the same as the exit button on whatever current window you're in. So again, you can exit out of a window without taking your hands off the keyboard. And there's a whole ton of other buttons on the top of the keyboard that can do things like turn your volume up and down, and operate like a media player, fast forward, rewind, mute button. I haven't got all those buttons to work, but here it is possible to get all those things to work. And so, final conclusion, not ideal, but it is kind of nice to have a keyboard and a mouse that doesn't have wires on it. The range isn't very far, so again, I think I would actually prefer to use a wired mouse and keyboard generally, but since I had access to this one, I thought I'd try it out. And long story short, it works well enough under Linux, and it's always nice to have an extra keyboard and mouse. So okay, that is about it, and I just want to reemphasize that it is really important to have the source code for things. And I know that any non-programmer that may be listening to this, they might think, what good is that? Because I can't use it, I can't understand it. I still think it's really important, because maybe you can't do it. Maybe you can't do bug fixes. Maybe you can't do upgrades in the programming, on the programming side of things, but somebody can. Somebody out there can do that, and it's just better. And I just want to talk a little bit about what are some of the problems with Microsoft Windows that I see every day. Every day I see these types of problems. And registry problems. Something happens in the registry that buggers up things, and sometimes it's not even clear why or how it happens. Things like CD-ROMs just suddenly stop working. after you reboot the computer. And and the fact that you have to reboot. Sometimes you have to reboot into safe mode to uninstall certain types of programs, like virus scanners, and of course the necessity of virus scanners themselves, and anti-spyware programs, and I'm sure there must be other things as well. Just programs you can go in and do nasty things to your computer. And we just don't see these types of problems on the Linux side of things. And I personally, I care less and less about the coexistence with Linux and Windows. I don't use Windows at all anymore. And the reasons why I don't is pretty clear. It's closed source, and there's lots of problems with it, obviously. I know there's people that are going to say things like, oh, well, I need this obscure function in Photoshop, or I'm going to use Skype, but I don't really care about that. I mean, I can do everything I need to do for my work on Linux, and I'm going to continue to check out these other operating systems because, I like to see new ideas. And so like if I would recommend to people, I would just basically say don't dual boot. Generally speaking, with Windows, don't dual boot. Probably I would say don't use it at all. But if you absolutely have to use Windows, just use it on a separate computer. Keep it totally separate from your Linux computer, because just consider this: you don't really know what's going on under Windows. You don't have the source code to most anything unless you wrote the program yourself. You don't have the source code for your applications, you don't have the source code for your services, and you don't have the source code for the operating system. So you don't really know what's going on. I see my hard drive light flashing on Windows sometimes, and I don't have it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm not even using the computer. I just look across the room. Why is the hard drive light blinking, right? Who knows what's going on? It could be an update, it could be something, it could be malware. You don't know. You don't really know what's going on. Now, I'm not going to say that these other operating systems are perfect and just Windows is crap. Although I don't have a very high opinion of Windows, it's not quite like that. Everything doesn't work perfect. Like I said before, there's not an ideal OS. However, I like to have as much control as possible over my computer, and that is how I do it. I do it with basically by having the source code do as many things as I possibly can, and on my Fedora 1 box, I've pretty much attained that, and on my I'm trying to get as close to that as possible. As I pointed out, I don't really have that 100% because of things like the sound card driver under FreeDOS, and I'm sure I could think of a couple other examples. There's probably a computer I have here where I don't have the source code to the video driver. Some of them I do, some of them I don't. But and then so you have this antivirus, anti-spyware, firewall software. Sometimes you can get it for free, sometimes you have to pay for it under Windows, and you have these registry problems. So where I'm sitting now, I don't really want to bother with it too much. I mean, it's just I guess it's a revenue stream, but it's hardly elegant. It's not really that great of a solution. So I think I'll just wrap it up there, and we'll call that the end, and thanks for listening.